The river did not push her back. As if the river rejected her. Lua heard the body hit the sand before she saw it. Heavy, wet, wrong. Something sacred had been thrown out, and whatever it was dying far from water. She should have run. Instead, she stepped closer, and chose a fate she did not yet understand. The woman lay where the last wave had failed to reach. Her body was half human, half scaled, the shimmer of her skin dulled by dust and heat. Deep along her side, several scales were cracked and darkened, stained where the river's protection had broken. The injury was not fresh, but it was dangerous. Not because of the wound alone. Because she was dry. Her hair was long and black, tangled with sand, clinging to her shoulders. Her chest rose unevenly. Each breath sounded thinner than the last. Lua froze. This was no ordinary woman. The elders spoke of river beings who could not survive away from water, whose strength leaked away the longer they remained on land. This one looked as though she had been pushed out by a violent surge, then abandoned by the very river that once held her. The sun was already stealing her glow. The woman's eyes opened. They were sharp, ancient, watching. For one heartbeat, Lua thought she would be cursed just for standing there. Her legs trembled. Her mind screamed at her to flee, to leave this thing to whatever fate the river had chosen. But then the woman's hand twitched. Weak, heavy, human. She was not attacking. She was asking, without words. Lua swallowed hard. Slowly, carefully, she tore a strip from her wrapper and knelt beside the body. She avoided the scales, focused only on the broken skin between them, binding gently, respectfully, like tending a wounded elder. The woman winced, but did not stop her. The river spirit was pretending to be weaker than she was. And Lua did not know. The river was not close. Every step mattered. Lua dragged the body inch by inch, her arms burning, her breath ragged, the sun merciless above them. The woman grew heavier with every moment, her skin losing its shimmer, her strength fading as though the land itself was draining her. Halfway there, the spirit gasped. Her fingers tightened around Lua's wrist. "Why haven't you left?" she whispered. Lua shook her head. "Because you're alive." That answer seemed to settle something. When the water finally touched the spirit's feet, the change was immediate. Color returned. Strength surged. The river accepted her back like a long-held breath finally released. The woman slipped from Lua's arms into the current. And rose, no longer weak. The river spirit stood fully now, water curling around her legs like obedient cloth. Her scales gleamed, flawless once more. Her eyes studied Lua with calm intensity. "You were not tested by fear," she said. "You were tested by choice." She lifted a single calabash from the water, old, simple, sealed. She placed it in Lua's hands. "This will feed you," the spirit said. "But only while gratitude stays silent." The river stirred. "And know this," she added softly. "Not every wounded thing is helpless, but every kind heart is seen." Then she stepped back. And the river closed over her as if she had never been broken at all. The first miracle arrived quietly. That evening, when Lua opened the calabash, her breath caught. Inside were dried fish, yams, and cowries. Fresh, clean, impossible. She closed it quickly, her heart pounding like a drum played too fast. She cooked without singing. She served without smiling. When Sola saw the food, his eyes widened. "Where did this come from?" he asked. Lua remembered the river's warning. And chose her words like fragile eggs. "A blessing," she said simply. "One that came to me." He did not press her. That was his nature. But Mama Kudira did not share his restraint. She watched. Counted. Listened. The next day, more appeared. And the next. Their debts vanished. Their hut grew fuller. Solare's shoulders lifted, hope returning like forgotten music. But Mama Kudira's eyes sharpened. "Blessings do not fall into lazy hands," she said one morning. "And women do not receive without paying." She began to ask questions that sounded like concern but tasted like suspicion. "Who helped you? What promise did you make? What did you give in return?" Lua answered gently, but vaguely. Each time, Mama Kudira frowned deeper. At night, the older woman whispered to herself, "If there is a price, I must know it." Because in her world, nothing valuable was ever free. Mama Kudira's curiosity grew into obsession. She watched Lua's hands when she opened the calabash. She sniffed the air when meals were cooked. She followed her steps, even counting how often she went near the river. One evening, she confronted her openly, voice calm, eyes sharp like broken pottery. "Daughter," she said. "Secrets rot families." Sola shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. "If this wealth came cleanly," Mama Kudira continued, "why hide it? Speak, so we can thank the source." Lua's chest tightened. The river's words echoed clearly now. "Especially to those who count more than they give." "I cannot," Lua said softly. "It is not mine to explain." Silence fell. Mama Kudira smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Then I will find out myself," she replied. And from that night on, she watched the calabash even more closely. She did not know she was not watching a container, but a boundary. The river does not rush. It waits. The first sign of change came so small that only Lua noticed. One morning, when she opened the calabash, the cowries were fewer. Not gone, just less. Her heart trembled. She said nothing. But Mama Kudira noticed the tension. She noticed how Lua's hands shook, how her eyes lingered too long inside the calabash. That evening, Mama Kudira made a decision, quiet, firm, irreversible. If the girl would not speak, she would be forced to. And far away, beneath the river's skin, something ancient shifted, as if counting had begun. Mama Kudira did not accuse again. She changed tactics. The next morning, she woke before dawn and prepared food with unusual care. Pepper was measured gently. Salt was not overused. Even palm oil glistened like it had been poured with respect. When she called Lua to eat, her voice was softer than it had ever been. "Sit, my daughter," she said. "You have carried this home with patience." Lua hesitated. Kindness from Mama Kudira had always arrived with teeth hidden beneath the tongue. Still, refusing food in that house was its own offense. Saturday. As they ate, Mama Kudira spoke of her youth, of hunger, of sacrifices she made when her husband died, of how she learned that nothing survives without a source. "Even rivers," she said casually, "have beginnings." Lua's fingers tightened around her bowl. "Your blessing," Mama Kudira continued, eyes never leaving her face. "It did not fall from the sky. Someone, something, gave it." Silence stretched. "I ask because I worry," she added gently. "Debts that are hidden, return with interest." Lua swallowed. The words pushed against her chest like trapped breath. "It is clean," she whispered. "That is all I can say." Mama Kudira smiled again. That night, Lua dreamed of the river, but this time, its surface was not calm. Ripples crossed it like wrinkles of concern. And beneath the water, something was counting. After that morning, the compound changed. Walls felt thinner. Sounds traveled too far. Even whispers seemed to echo back with meaning. Lua began to feel that the house itself was listening, not to protect, but to report. Mama Kudira started inviting visitors. Women from the village came to eat, to admire, to praise. They asked questions dressed as compliments. "You glow," one said. "Who has favored you?" "Your pots are always full," said another. "Which hands bless you?" Lua answered carefully, always circling the truth without touching it. But each question pulled at the boundary the river had drawn. At night, Sola grew uneasy. "My mother watches you too closely," he said quietly. "You should tell me what troubles you." Lua looked at him for a long time. She wanted to speak, to release the weight, but the river's warning pressed harder than fear. "If I speak," she said slowly, "we will lose more than we gained." He did not understand, but he believed her. Mama Kudira noticed that too. And when belief passed between husband and wife, jealousy entered the room like smoke, silent, choking. That was when Mama Kudira decided words would no longer be enough. Mama Kudira waited for market day. The village was loud then, voices layered, distractions everywhere. She followed Lua quietly, watching where she walked, when she paused, how often her eyes moved toward the river path. When Lua returned home, Mama Kudira was waiting alone. "I spoke to the elders," she lied calmly. "They say blessings from spirits are dangerous if unnamed." Lua froze. "They say," Mama Kudira continued, that if the giver is not acknowledged, the gift turns against the receiver. The words were deliberate, crafted to pierce. Lua's heart pounded. Doubt crept in where trust had lived. The river had warned her never to explain, but had it meant never, or never to her? What if, Mama Kudira pressed gently, you only tell me? A mother. I will protect you. Silence returned. Long, tight, trembling. Lua opened her mouth, then closed it again. She remembered the river's eyes, ancient, patient, watching. I cannot, she said, voice breaking. Please, do not ask again. Mama Kudira's face hardened. That night, she did not sleep, because now she knew. The secret existed. The next morning, the calabash was lighter. Not empty, never empty, but noticeably diminished. The food still appeared, but less generous, less eager. Lua's breath shook. She returned to the river at dawn, kneeling without words. She did not cry. She did not beg. She only waited. The water stirred slightly. A voice rose, not from the surface, but from within her chest. Has your silence weakened? It asked. Or has another's hunger grown? Lua pressed her forehead to the earth. I have not spoken, she whispered, but I am being hunted. The river was quiet for a long time. Then prepare, it finally said, because the one who demands the price will soon offer payment. Lua did not understand, but fear settled deep. Back home, Mama Kudira had begun telling her own version of the story to neighbors. Planting rumors, soft lies, careful poison. She hides something, she said, and hidden things rot families. The village listened, and the river counted. The confrontation came without warning. Mama Kudira gathered the household at dusk, Sola, neighbors, even an elder passing by. She stood in the center of the compound like a woman delivering justice. This house eats from mystery, she declared. And mystery invites destruction. Lua's knees weakened. Today, Mama Kudira said, turning to her, you will speak, or we will assume the worst. Sola stepped forward. Mother, enough. But Mama Kudira raised her hand. Where, she demanded, voice sharp as iron. Did the gift come from? All eyes turned. The river's warning echoed, louder now, urgent. Lua felt the moment stretch, thin, fragile, irreversible. And then, under pressure, fear, love. She spoke. It came from the river, she said softly. And it asked for silence. The air changed. Wind passed through the compound, slow, cold, deliberate. Somewhere beyond the trees, the river shifted its course. And Mama Kudira smiled. Not knowing the price had just begun to count. Mama Kudira expected thunder. She expected screams, maybe madness, some immediate punishment to prove she was right. Instead, nothing happened. The night passed quietly. The moon rose. Crickets sang. The compound slept. And Mama Kudira smiled to herself. You see, she said the next morning, folding her wrapper with satisfaction. Nothing destroys honesty. She watched Lua closely, waiting for signs of fear. But the young woman moved as gently as ever, only now, her eyes carried a weight they had not before. The calabash still produced food that day. Still produced cowries. Mama Kudira felt justified. Spirits exaggerate, she said aloud, as if lecturing the air. They frighten fools into obedience. That afternoon, she took some of the cowries without asking, just a few, slipping them into her cloth. Nothing happened. Her confidence grew. She took more the next day. And when no immediate consequence followed, her certainty hardened into pride. The river, she decided, was a story. And stories were meant to be mastered. Lua noticed everything. The missing cowries. The way Mama Kudira avoided her eyes. That night, Lua dreamed again, but this time, the river did not speak. It only receded, slowly, deliberately, as if pulling something back into itself. Loss never arrives loudly. It begins with small confusions. A pot of soup that tasted thinner. A fish that spoiled too quickly. Cowries that vanished between counting and storage. Mama Kudira blamed carelessness. You've grown lazy, she snapped at Lua. Blessings shrink in careless hands. But the pattern continued. Each time Mama Kudira took without asking, something else disappeared. Not from her room, but from the house. A goat went missing. A stored bag of grain spoiled overnight. A customer accused Sola of cheating at the market. Still, Mama Kudira did not connect the signs. She returned to the river path one morning, not to apologize, but to observe. She stood at a distance, arms crossed. "So this is you," she muttered. "Water and whispers." The river did not move. That evening, when Lua opened the calabash, it was half empty. Her breath shook, not in panic, but recognition. She returned to the river once more, kneeling quietly. "I spoke," she said, "but I did not bargain." The water stirred faintly. "And now," the river replied, "we see who will finish the sentence." Mama Kudira's fear did not arrive as fear. It arrived as defiance. If the river has power, she told herself, then it can be forced to give more. She began to wake before dawn, reaching for the calabash herself. She counted its contents aloud, naming, measuring, claiming. "This comes from the river," she said one morning, voice loud enough for the air to hear. "And the river owes us." The moment the words left her mouth, the wind shifted. Lua felt it in her bones. That night, Mama Kudira dreamed of standing in shallow water while something tugged at her ankles, not pulling, just holding. She woke angry. "You have turned this gift against us," she accused Lua. "You poisoned it with your fear." Lua did not answer. She had learned something important. The river did not punish speech. It punished ownership. Mama Kudira went to the elders, boasting openly now. "My house eats from the river," she said. "It favors us." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Rivers, they knew, did not favor noise. Things stopped appearing. Not all at once. Just enough to be noticed. One morning, the calabash produced nothing but damp air. Mama Kudira laughed nervously. "Tomorrow," she said. "Spirits test patience." Tomorrow came, and brought nothing. Solare's business failed. Neighbors stopped visiting. Whispers returned, but this time, they followed Mama Kudira. "Those who shout about blessings," people said, "usually lose them first." Mama Kudira's pride cracked. She returned to the river at night, alone, furious, desperate. "Give back what you took," she demanded. "We honored you." The water rippled gently. "You honored yourself," the river replied, and called it reverence. Mama Kudira stumbled back, breath uneven. For the first time, she felt it. Not anger. Not pride. Fear. The river never forces. It waits for a decision. The final night arrived quietly. Lua sat beside the calabash, hands resting on her knees. It was empty now, but calm. Mama Kudira stood across from her, thinner, quieter, older. "I did not know," she said finally. "I thought power belonged to those who asked loudly." Lua looked up. "The river gives to those who listen," she replied, "and takes from those who explain." Silence passed between them, long, honest, heavy. Outside, the river swelled, not violently, but fully, as if ready to receive something back. Mama Kudira understood then. Not all prices are paid with loss. Some are paid with surrender. And the river waited, patient as ever. The river did not demand blood. It did not ask for gold. It asked for return. Mama Kudira stood at the water's edge before dawn, holding the calabash with both hands. Her fingers trembled, not from age, but from understanding. "I took what was not mine," she said slowly, "and I named what should have remained unnamed." The river did not answer immediately. Lua stood a distance behind her, not to witness punishment, but to witness truth. The water rippled gently, then stilled. "Give back the words," the river said. "Not to me, but to yourself." Mama Kudira frowned, confused. "Carry silence where you once carried noise," the voice continued. "Let humility replace explanation." Mama Kudira lowered the calabash into the river. It did not sink. It did not float away. It dissolved, quietly, like mist touching water. Nothing dramatic followed. Only stillness. When Mama Kudira turned around, her shoulders seemed lighter, but her eyes were heavier. She had been returned to herself. Life did not improve overnight. But it softened. Food returned, not miraculously, but honestly. Small harvests. Fair trades. Shared meals. The kind of survival that asks for effort, not secrets. Sola worked again with patience. Lua sold her skills, cooking, weaving, listening. They lived without abundance, but without fear. Mama Kudira changed quietly. She no longer counted other people's portions. She no longer measured worth by what could be taken. Sometimes she sat near the river path, but never close enough to challenge it. She spoke less. And when she did, her words carried care. The villagers noticed. She has aged, they said. No, others replied. She has learned. At night, Lua no longer dreamed of the river. Instead, she dreamed of open land, workable soil, steady hands, quiet strength. The river had not punished them. It had corrected the balance. Stories travel faster than rivers. Soon, Oroko village learned what not to ask. No one questioned how Lua survived hunger. No one asked Mama Kudira about the calabash. When strangers came boasting of deals with spirits, the elders shook their heads. Do not explain gifts, they warned. Explain your character instead. Children were taught early. A river listens even when silent. A gift remembers its keeper. And greed always speaks first. Lua became known not for wealth, but for restraint. People brought her their troubles, not because she had answers, but because she knew when not to speak. And Mama Kudira never again demanded a price she could not pay. Years later, during another harmattan, the river swelled higher than usual. No one panicked. They remembered. That night, Lua stood at its edge once more, older now, stronger, carrying no calabash, no request, no fear. The water shifted slightly. You kept silence, the river said. Even when speech tempted you. I learned, Lua replied, that not all blessings are meant to grow. The river did not offer another gift. It did not need to. Some lessons are the gift. And some rivers visit only once. By morning, the water had receded. Calm, ordinary, forgettable. As all powerful things eventually become. In Oroko village, they still tell this story by firelight. Not to frighten children, but to remind adults. They say, the river gives to quiet hands, but withdraws from noisy mouths. They say, a gift explained is already half returned. And they say, when greed asks the price, the river begins to count. Lua lived without miracles after that. But she lived without chains. And Mama Kudira lived without power, but with peace earned, not taken. As for the river, it still flows, silent, patient, watching, waiting for the next question. That should never be asked. If this story touched you, like the video to support African folktales. Subscribe for more powerful stories of mystery, rivers, and destiny. Share this story with someone who loves deep African stories.